This can't be Gandalf. If you're going to talk about Gandalf, you have to talk about Eru. If you're going to talk about Eru, you have to talk about the Ainur. If you're going to talk about the Ainur, then you have to talk about the Valar. I know that despite everything that people are saying, I'm really keeping the door open to this not being Gandalf. And I've talked about this scene previously, but I'm going to talk about it again because really just sticking with what was exposed in the first season of Rings of Power, it doesn't make sense if they turn this into Gandalf. If they start calling him Gandalf in the second season, it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense in light of the scene that I'm going to show, because it presupposes the idea that the three quote-unquote white witches, or I've heard called Sinister Sisters or Women from Rune, are just stupid. And that concept or that idea that they're simply bereft of thinking and that they're just stupid, it's really not a functional idea. And I say it's really not a functional idea because what will happen is then you're kind of pretty much contradicting what you've already created. You're contradicting what you already told me. And in the last episode of The Rings of Power, the wizard in question remembers doing bad things. He remembers doing evil things. So if they're going to retcon Gandalf, then they can go ahead and call him Gandalf. But we would be proceeding in a season 2 with a Gandalf that's been completely retconned. And I'm not even talking about the timeline. I'm just talking about what was exposed in season 1 of Rings of Power. So what we would have is we would have a Gandalf that potentially might have been bad in the past, except that's not really Gandalf, and that doesn't make any sense.
Make him see.
Make him see what? What are they making him see exactly? So a lot of people, for example, they've been calling this particular white witch Feminem, and no offense, that's a little bit corny. So, truth be told, this lady could actually eliminate all of the Harfoots with a simple spell. But for some reason, she doesn't. And I'm supposed to accept this because supposedly, and I guess I'm going to use the quote-unquote Marshall analogy again, she's brain damaged like the Marshall Mathers song? No, that doesn't make any sense. So the lady can produce fire with her hands, but I am supposed to suspend belief and assume that she's quote-unquote so brain-addled that she thinks that Gandalf is Sauron. And then towards the end of this episode, we have not Gandalf quoting some Gandalf lines. This doesn't work. It doesn't work for season 2. Please clean this up. Okay, so she can produce fire with her hands. She can burn all the trees around her, but she needs the master. She needs Sauron. Why does she need Sauron? This might have been a good time to introduce more of the cosmology of Middle-earth, because if the real context of her needing a master gets into the cosmology, going up to the Valar, talking about the Melkor, talking about Morgoth going on his own, talking about Myron becoming Sauron from a fall of grace, getting into the cosmology a little bit, that would have been appropriate at this time.
Take it. We need you. Please just take it.
Okay, so unfortunately, once again, it's being presented that the three White Witches are like the Three Stooges, because Nori is able to get the staff away, and what happened to the other two ladies?
Or I will hurt you.
So why does he remember to speak? How is it that he is able to remember what to say? How is it that he is now able to speak English? This happened because he remembered, because the ladies showed him how to remember. And then why would he be saying what he's saying? What he is saying is not something that could ever come from Gandalf's mouth.
Again.
What have they done to you?
They showed me what I am.
I agree, they showed you who you are, but who you are could not be Gandalf if you've done some bad stuff previously.
Only you can show what you are. You choose.
So I like the Nori character. I do like the Nori character, but this does not make any sense. If this is supposed to be Gandalf, this does not make any
Why
sense.
what you do?
This is not possible as a choice that Gandalf would be making. Gandalf would not even need to think about this kind of situation even a couple seconds. So how are the Harfoots still alive?
You're here to help.
Okay, so he's here to help, but why did he remember bad things?
I know it.
So why did they call him Sauron? Did they call him Sauron just because they're stupid? And how does he remember that he's way more powerful than them? He just remembers because they shocked him out of his catatonic state?
Close your eyes. It'll only hurt for a moment.
I don't think just closing her eyes would just fix everything. I really don't. And so, not Gandalf now shows us how powerful he is. And so, of course, these three ladies, they're obviously brain damaged. That's the problem with them, that they're completely brain damaged.
From shadow you came. To shadow I bid you return.
So he's definitely a very powerful wizard, and somehow he remembered, but that doesn't prove that he's Gandalf.
Sauron, he's the other. He's the... He is...
I'm good.
He's the other because what? He's the other because he's an Istari? He's the other, what is he? You can't tell us because, of course, we're assuming that you're all brain damaged. And of course he kills them because that's what he's supposed to do. And are we absolutely sure that he actually killed them? So here's a quote from Return of the King from Gandalf himself. So other evils there are that may come, for Sauron is himself but a servant or emissary. Yet it is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what it is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. What a weather they shall have is not ours to rule. And that's Gandalf from Return of the King. So why did I say some of what I just said? So let me just take a quick quote from the Tolkien Gateway. So Gandalf was one of the 5 Istari sent to Middle-earth by the Valar in the Third Age. In Valinor, he was known as Olorid. Gandalf was instrumental in bringing about the demise of Sauron in the Third Age 3019, chiefly by encouraging others and dispensing his wisdom at pivotal times. Gandalf was originally robed in gray and second to Saruman in the Order of Wizards. After his fall in Moria, Gandalf returned to Middle-earth as head of the Order, robed in white. So a side note that's not on the Tolkien Gateway in this passage is that he was resurrected by Eru, who is the chief deity of the Tolkien universe. And just to finish off the quote, Gandalf was noteworthy for his keen interest in hobbits.